And welcome back, everyone, to Legal Matters. I'm your host, Alan Jones, tonight. And with me now is Mark Brynteson, the managing attorney with the American law firm. We're now in our third season of Legal Matters. And as I mentioned earlier tonight, this is a half-hour informational news call-in show devoted to a variety of legal topics of interest to area viewers. We have attorneys standing by right now to take your call at the number on your screen. They'll be able to provide you with free information regarding your legal issue. So call now and throughout the next half hour. Our opening statement tonight, just how far will insurance companies go to sabotage your claim? We'll take a look at that question and many others. Mark Brynteson will guide us through Personal Injury 201. And then following a break, we'll discuss the divorce process. But first, let me remind you of the multiple practice areas of the American law firm. The American law firm is a general practice law firm that concentrates in divorce and family law cases, bankruptcy matters, personal injury claims, criminal, traffic, and DUI issues, wills, trust, and probate matters, real estate and business transactions, along with immigration and naturalization services. So feel free to call now to discuss any of these issues with attorneys who are standing by. Well, Mark, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and hope 2015 is good for you in the upcoming year.
Well, you too, Alan.
What's planned? What is expected from the American law firm in 2015?
Well, what we're looking is putting new technologies, bringing it up to date, going to what is called a functionally paperless office so we can better serve clients, more efficiently work on their cases and their files, and finish their work expeditiously and well done. Okay, so people who can look forward to dealing with you in a little smoother matter. Would that be fair to say? A lot more O's and smooth.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mark. Well, we'll get started here with regard to personal injury and auto insurance claims. We've talked about that before. Talk a little bit about insurance companies' approach to a personal injury claim and an auto claim.
Well, I think the seminal case or example that all plaintiffs' attorneys point to occurred back in the late 1990s, where one of the top three insurance companies got caught with their finger in the cookie jar, so to speak. There was a lawsuit in Florida after a pattern had evolved where plaintiffs' lawyers wanted to get, because the company was not acting and settling and negotiating in good faith, they sued him on bad faith and requested all the information that this company had received from a consulting firm who was basically centered in Chicago. And it was how to reduce the claims payout so they could increase profits. Mm-hmm. And they wouldn't give it, the insurance company wouldn't give it to the plaintiff's attorney in discovery. So the judge, in cooperation with the Florida Department of Insurance, they were going to poll that insurance company's ability to do business and write insurance down in Florida, and finally they gave up everything that was in that package. And the things that were in there were terrible, the extent that they would go to sabotage a claim. For example, one of the many was if somebody was an elderly claimant and maybe didn't have too long to live, stretch that claim out until they died, so the value of the claim would be less. Wow. In many of their presentations to insurance company executives, they had things on PowerPoint presentations that were like alligators, having claimants smashed in their mouths. Some of the tactics that they were using just were not fair. And you can go and you can Google it. It's on Google all over the place, exactly what happened. But if you want to know to the extent that insurance companies will go to sabotage and reduce the value of the claim, that's one example of the many.
But they were caught. Well, they wouldn't have been caught if they had. Well, but I guess they were kind of stuck. They had to turn it over anyway.
Well,
the fact that they went to court,
the plaintiff's attorneys found out about it, sued them. And in the discovery process, they were ordered to give it to the plaintiff's attorney, and finally they did. They didn't want to because they knew it was going to happen. Yeah. But this case is not published, unlike the McDonald's coffee verdict case. That's a plaintiff's case. This case you don't hear a lot about. That's because the insurance companies do control the media to a large extent. So has that cut down on this practice possibly, or is consultants for insurance companies still a very thriving business? Oh, it's a thriving business, and the insurance companies, they still use these tactics because it makes money. The poor claimant that doesn't get what they need to pay their bills, their medical bills, their lost wages, That's tough. That's why an experienced personal injury attorney is essential if you want to get the maximum value of your claim and end up not owing anybody.
Okay, and you can get such an attorney at the American Law Firm.
Yes, we do have them there.
Yeah, have them there. Just call 394-1776 and you'll get that information right there. Well, how soon should someone report a claim, and should a lawyer review that claim first?
Absolutely. Every claim anybody that's been injured in an accident, whether it's slip and fall, auto, medical malpractice, products liability, should consult with an attorney to find out what their rights are. The claims process is filled with trapdoors that if you don't know what you're doing, you can basically lose your claim. One example I give all the time was a case where somebody came to me about 8 months after the accident happened, and the insurance company got to the client first. They said, you don't need an attorney to settle this claim. And what ended up happening is the people that saw what color the light was and could justify that my client wasn't the one at fault disappeared. When the insurance company found that out, they said, well, you can't prove it, so we're going to deny the claim. Whereas if you would have had an attorney involved right then and there, we could have gotten the witness statement, the address, and followed up with the person and preserved the claim.
Okay, and that's good advice. And that's something you can get with a good lawyer at the American Law Firm.
Every lawyer that handles personal injury, one of the questions asked, do you adequately investigate the front end of a personal injury claim? And they should say yes and detail how they do that.
Okay, all right, Mark, great advice. We'll come back. We're going to take a break. We'll talk about the divorce process in just a moment.
Picture experience. Legal experience in many areas of law. Dedication. Giving full attention to each client and their individual legal needs. Affordability. Offering simple flat fees and payment plans. Now picture the American Law Firm. Call the American Law Firm today at 815-394-1776 for your free consultation.
And welcome back. I'm Alan Jones. With me is Attorney Mark Brynteson with the American Law Firm. And you're watching Legal Matters, an informational and news call-in show devoted to a variety of legal topics. We have attorneys standing by right now to take your call at the number on your screen, 815-394-1776. They'll be able to provide you with free information regarding your issue, so call now. We will have attorneys standing by until 7:30 tonight. So now, Mark, we're going to change gears a little bit and talk about estate planning. Is this something that American Law Firm does on a regular basis?
Yes, we do. We do a tremendous amount of estate planning. And everybody thinks of estate planning as you have to have a lot of money to do it, and that's not the case. Somebody with a modest estate really needs to have a will, needs to have certain documents to make sure that if they do die, everything can be wound up and taken care of orderly. You can have some big messes after somebody dies without any estate planning documents. For instance, there's really two sets of documents, what I call pre-death and post-death. Pre-death documents are things like powers of attorney for finance and health, a living will. A living will is the pull the plug document. If you don't have that, you've probably heard across the country where millions of dollars in health care occur that wouldn't have to if they had the correct pre-death documents, and those are the powers of attorney and the living will. Then there's your post-death documents. That can be a will, a trust. Illinois has a unique document that you can use to give your house directly to heirs called a transfer on death document, transfer on death instrument. Why that's important, it used to be only the very rich by doing a trust could give their house away directly and avoid probate. But what you do in any type of estate planning, whether it's a very rich person or somebody of modest means, is you want to arrange their estate plan so they can give everything directly away, avoid probate and the probate costs. And that's really the key to estate planning, and we have estate planners that are very good at that and do it probably several times a week.
Mm-hmm. So how do you determine the kind of estate plan that someone needs? Do they need all of those documents that you were talking about, or do they need, or can they pick and choose, I guess? Is it a menu kind of thing?
Menu type of thing. We'll recommend, for instance, I've been practicing since the 1980s, and what I would have told somebody in the 1980s is totally different than now, especially with medical technology. medical technology can keep us alive for a long time, even when we don't have any more meaningful life. One of the examples I use all the time in clients when I'm consulting about an estate plan is if I go home that night and somebody goes through a red light and T-bones me, and my brain isn't working anymore, the part that makes me me isn't working, but the part that allows my heart to beat is, with a little help. I don't want to lay in the bed and become a blob of jelly, basically. I want the cord pulled and let's have the funeral, and I don't want my loved ones to have to deal with that. So the pre-death documents are probably just as important, if not more important today, than a will or a trust.
So you have to think about, I guess, what your particular needs are, and I guess that's where family needs to come together and discuss what they want, what they need. Like you said, if they come into a medical situation like that, do I want you to pull the plug? Do I want to stick around? What are my choices?
And that's absolutely another one. My wife and I did our estate plan when we were in our early 30s. We had 3 kids at that time. And one of the important decisions in the estate plan was who would be the guardians of our children if anything happened to us. So let's say we took a plane trip together and the plane crashed and we both died. Who would be taking care of the kids? Where would the assets that are part of our estate go into a trust for the guardians to use for the benefit of our children? People don't think about that. If you don't have that recorded in an instrument that you control, then what happens is state law will govern how that happens.
Yeah. And that, I guess, is the probate part of it? Is that what that is? Try to explain for us exactly what probate is all about.
Well, estate planning is done to avoid as much probate as you can. Probate is the state law requirement that when you die, you have an orderly disposition of your estate. And a lot of it's really there for the creditors to marshal all the assets of your estate, define them, and pay your last bills, and then give the residue, what's ever left, to your heirs. If you control that in your estate plan, it's a much more orderly and simple process. Also, if you can give away a lot of your estate directly and not through a will, then you can do what's called a small estate affidavit probate, which is much simpler and much cheaper, and that's the whole goal of estate planning. But probate can usually last 6 months, and that's a long time for heirs to have to wind up an estate for somebody that died, especially when, you know, it's a loved one that's not there anymore, and every time that you have to deal with it, the memory comes back.
Okay. Okay, well, it's very, very interesting and probably a lot more information than people realize they need to know. I'm sure that many people have wills but don't understand there's a lot of other things that go into it as well. So that's great information. All right. Thank you, Mark. Well, the lawyers for the American law firm are standing by at 815-394-1776 to talk about whatever you want to talk about. They will talk about your legal issues and give you some information on that. And we'll be back with a closing statement when Legal Matters returns in a moment.
Picture experience. Legal experience in many areas of law. Dedication. Giving full attention to each client and their individual legal needs. Affordability. Offering simple flat fees and payment plans. Now picture the American law firm. Call the American law firm today at 815-394-1776 for your free consultation.